Tonight on Alaska's news source, President Trump confirms Iran's supreme leader is dead after an Israel-U.S. strike. Reaction from Alaska's delegation. And while frigid temperatures take over the last frontier, a series of storms push across southeast, bringing several inches of snow through the weekend. Plus, a devastated community finds joy in sports following former Typhoon Long. Check in with the Kipnook Falcons as they vie for an Anchorage C-Team title.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
I think they've been at war with us for almost 50 years.
Alaska's delegation reacts to the strikes on Iran and the killing of the country's supreme leader. President Trump declared the leader of Iran is dead after an overnight strike on the country by U.S. and Israel. And he says he believes many other decision makers are also dead. Alice Barr has details on the attack that started hours ago and hasn't let up.
In an explosion of violence in Iran, the U.S. and Israel launching airstrikes targeting the country's missile and nuclear programs and senior leadership, with President Trump now saying Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead. Iran has not confirmed that. He has led an intensely repressive regime in Iran for nearly 40 years. Earlier today, President Trump spoke directly to the Iranian people.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
Iran's foreign minister had pushed back in an NBC News interview this morning.
Well, I think this is mission impossible. For regime change,
Iran is retaliating, firing attacks toward Israel and U.S. military bases in the region. President Trump monitoring closely with his national security team and speaking with Israel's prime minister, who argued this war will lead to true peace. Senior Trump administration officials telling reporters Iran was threatening American forces in the region with potential missile strikes, and the U.S. acted preemptively with the long-term goal of preventing Iran from rebuilding its nuclear program after U.S. and Israeli strikes last year. The president saying diplomacy was not working in ongoing nuclear talks.
We will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message.
Anti-war demonstrations breaking out in American cities as the world waits for what's next. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Lawmakers in both parties are calling for a war powers vote in Congress and a detailed briefing. Alaska's all-Republican congressional delegation responded publicly following the strikes on Iran. In statements released Saturday, the delegation voiced support for toppling the Iranian supreme leader. Senate Armed Service Committee Chairman Senator Dan Sullivan weighed in on the strikes during an interview today in Anchorage. He was attending a field hearing on Arctic security infrastructure. Sullivan says he is unlikely to vote in support of the war powers resolution this week. However, he expects the Pentagon to brief the Armed Services Committee as early as Tuesday.
You know, every president has had the goal of making sure Iran doesn't obtain a nuclear weapon. That would be horrible. The world's largest state sponsor of terrorism getting a nuclear weapon does not have ballistic missile capabilities.
In a statement released early Saturday morning on X, Alaska's senior senator Lisa Murkowski commented the extraordinary bravery, discipline, and professionalism of troops who carried out the mission, adding there is no question that Iran's brutal regime must be held accountable for its ongoing aggression abroad and its ruthless repression of its own people. Representative Nick Begich said the strikes were necessary and, quote, I look forward to the forthcoming classified briefing to Congress on these actions, which will provide members with crucial details on the operation. We have more details on our website and mobile app. And it sure has been chilly outside. Meteorologist Bailey Braun joins us with what to expect for the rest of the weekend and into next week.
Thank you, Michaela. Yeah, I spent most of my day yesterday outside, and if you were like me, then you know you need to layer up and bundle up, and it's going to be that way all the way into midweek next week. These cold temperatures are sticking around, while high temperatures into Anchorage are close to single digits, if not barely reaching into double digits. But across the state, we're seeing this cooling trend underway, especially into the interior and especially for Northwest Alaska. That's really where we're seeing that cooling trend that is active and kicking up. And one aspect about this cooling trend is that wind chill. Wind chill is making it feel a little bit more like 50 below over in Dead Horse. And there is also a cold weather advisory for portions of the North Slope for wind chill as low as negative 65 degrees, and very similar for areas of the Kuskokwim Delta where it could reach as low as negative 45 degrees for that wind chill. So be sure to bundle up, especially if you are going outside. There's lots of Ferrandi activity this weekend and even into next week. So even in South Central, where these temperatures are still a little bit warmer than other parts of the state, be ready to layer up and bundle up. Now, across the state, we are seeing these sunny skies, and that's not really helping, especially with this radiational cooling into the overnight hours. But one area I really want to focus on is into Juneau, especially for the rest of Southeast. We're seeing a lot of this wintry precipitation really picking up, and this is just one of 3 storms that's going to move through in the next coming days. So as we look ahead, the first storm is active right now. That's where you've seen a lot of that heavy snowfall, but then by Sunday afternoon, that's when we'll see that second storm begin to move through. And then by Monday and into Tuesday, we'll have a third storm that will bring even more of that snow and rain. Before the next 24 hours or so, you're going to pick up another 3 to 7 inches of snow for areas like Juneau, but staying a little bit more on the wet side for areas like Ketchikan, where more of that heavy rainfall is expected. But all across the state, these temperatures are much, much colder than they typically are. So expect these below average temperatures, and also be sure to check out your daylight hours as the sun is coming up closer to about 8 in the morning for areas like Anchorage and into Fairbanks. Michaela?
In Capitol coverage, 3 Alaskan superintendents conveyed the worsening state of schools to lawmakers Friday. Those concerns come after lawmakers called conditions at Mount Edgecombe deplorable, and the Anchorage School Board voted to close 3 schools this week.
I know how hard you fought last year to make sure that you're meeting the needs of Alaska's kids. But I cannot help but imagine what our schools would look like if they were fully funded or made whole.
Pictures like the ones you're seeing now show concerns from the superintendents. The Kipnuk School District superintendent said the roof of their now closed gym began to crack during basketball practice. And in the Bering Strait School District, a Stebbins school became a total loss due to a fire. That as they invest their dollars into alleviating oil spills from aging tanks. But though schools say they need funding, the path forward is not clear. Lawmakers have to balance a tight budget due to decreasing revenues while continuing to have safe schools.
I would like to see us at least do an inflation adjustment for this year so we don't go backwards. We're in a tough fiscal situation, but we can't go backwards. I don't want to see that. Our students don't want to see that. Our families don't want to see that.
The challenges we're going to have to kind of work through more is there's bigger needs than we have budget. That's the harsh reality behind it. So how do we make the dollars we have work to kind of get into some of those other areas? The state of our facilities are really challenging.
Over the summer, lawmakers overrode the governor's education funding veto of $51 million, a decision Dunleavy made due to decreasing oil revenue. For more details on what superintendent said, visit our website and mobile app. And still ahead, we're hearing from the Kipnuk basketball team as they attempt to win the championship game just months after their village was destroyed.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
After former Typhoon Halong struck western Alaska in October, no one knew whether Kipnuk's basketball season would even be played. But as Charlie Fellows shows us, 4 months later, the Falcons took the court with a chance to win a championship.
Falcons! Every team that makes it to their championship game does so with a story. No two are the same, of course, but they carry some common through lines. Hard work, overcoming adversity, and a lot of hometown pride. In that sense, the Kipnuk Falcons seem right at home. It's only when you zoom out from the gym that you realize their story is much more unique.
It keeps my mind off from what happened in October, and I'm pretty sure it keeps their mind off too.
Anne-Marie Paul leads a Kipnuk squad that had to evacuate its village after former Typhoon Halong struck the western Alaska coast. The Falcons may be far from their nest, but they've found a way to not only field a team, but field a good team.
I've seen them improve a lot after seeing what they went through and then coming out here, being close to each other. Yeah, I've seen that they adapted well to it.
Paul's team is fast, frantic, organized chaos, a play style that channels the uncertainty that led the Western Alaska squad to be playing in Anchorage this season in the first place.
I thought we weren't going to have a team when I got a call from the LKSD student activity. I was really excited for that.
That play style kept Saturday's matchup with the Chugiak Mustangs in the C-Team Championship close, but ultimately the Falcons came up short. But even in defeat, their fans stood tall. A reminder that even though they'd left their hometown, that hometown pride had made the trip. Charlie Fellows, Alaska's news source.
In Fairbanks, the World Ice Art Championships is transforming massive blocks of Alaskan ice into towering masterpieces, but the real heat is in the judging booth. Lead judge Dan Rebolds, a 40-year veteran of the craft, oversees a rigorous 1,000-point evaluation system. From how accurately artists depict human anatomy to how well they execute their vision, judges analyze every chisel mark under a metaphorical microscope.
But for me, a lot of it is that wow factor. You know, when people walk up, almost everybody that walks up to this sculpture, their first word is wow. And this has got the wow factor. Other than wow factor, it's just finished. Every aspect of the ice that when we walk around it, is touched by a chisel, polished.
You can catch the World Ice Art Championships for a few more weeks.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.